Every morning at 6:45 a.m., Ellie sat by the kitchen window with a lukewarm cup of coffee, half distractedly watching the same jogger pass by. He wore a neon yellow vest, so bright it seemed to glow in the early gray light. He always waved, always ran with an easy rhythm, and never looked tired. She envied him a little. He was young, mid-30s, maybe with wireless earbuds and a stride that made her knees ache just looking at it. Ellie, 62 and recently retired, hadn't walked farther than the mailbox in weeks. And even that felt like an errand. Some people are just wired different, she muttered one morning, sipping her coffee and biting into a leftover brownie she hadn't planned on eating. Breakfast of champions. Her kitchen was quiet, a little too quiet since the dog passed. The house was clean, organized still. She told herself she liked it that way. The jogger became a kind of daily punctuation. Not a friend, not a neighbor she'd ever spoken to, just a reliable flash of neon, a moving part in the stillness. She found herself waiting for him. She liked the predictability of it. She needed it, even if she wouldn't have admitted that aloud. Then came Thursday. It was raining, light and misty, the kind of rain that whispers rather than shouts. Ellie stood by the window with her coffee and waited. No jogger. She blinked. Maybe he was late. She waited 10 more minutes. Still nothing. Friday came. Dry, cool, crisp. Still no jogger. A peculiar restlessness settled into her bones, something she hadn't felt in years. Not quite worry, more like a nagging disruption. Like someone had nudged her carefully curated life and knocked it off balance. On Saturday, she pulled open the closet, dug through old jackets, and found her ancient gray hoodie. She grabbed her most forgiving pair of yoga pants, worn thin at the knees, and lace-up sneakers she hadn't touched since the community center yoga class she quit after 2 sessions. She told herself it wasn't about the jogger. She just needed some air, a little movement, nothing dramatic. The sidewalk felt strange beneath her feet. The air was clean and cold, and it filled her lungs like she'd forgotten they could expand that far. A squirrel darted in front of her, and she actually laughed, a short, surprised bark of sound she hadn't heard from herself in a while. She walked 1 block. Her ankles hurt. Her knees made tiny protests, but her chest felt awake. The next morning, she walked 2 blocks. By Tuesday, 4. By Friday, she was walking a full mile, slow and steady, but upright, purposeful. She nodded at neighbors she hadn't seen in years, waved at kids on bikes, paused to admire a flower bed blooming with late spring marigolds. The jogger never returned, but Ellie had stopped looking. Small changes followed, then bigger ones. She swapped coffee for green tea. At first, it tasted like lawn clippings. By the end of the month, she couldn't start the day without it. She replaced her bag of chips with apple slices and peanut butter. Her joints stopped aching quite so often. Instead of scrolling aimlessly on her tablet until midnight, she began stretching to a playlist she made herself. 80s hits and Motown, music she used to dance to in the kitchen with her husband before he passed. The living room became her stage again. At the market one afternoon, the teenage cashier raised an eyebrow at her basket. "You bought kale?" he said, scanning the label like it might be a mistake. "I know," Ellie replied with a grin. "Who am I?" Around week 6, she found herself on a bench at the edge of the park, something she'd never planned. The pond shimmered with dragonflies, and 2 older women nearby were feeding ducks and talking loudly about their grandkids. Ellie eavesdropped unashamedly, then struck up a conversation. Their names were Joan and Marcy, and by the next week, she was walking with them. They met Tuesdays and Thursdays. Ellie brought orange slices and a joke from her Dad Jokes desk calendar. They laughed more than they walked. One morning, as Ellie laced up her sneakers by the door, she noticed something strange. Her phone was on the charger. She hadn't even touched it since the night before. Her world, once pixel-bound, had begun expanding, rooted in trees, laughter, motion, and sky. Then, one Saturday morning, as she paused by the fence to tighten her shoelace, her neighbor's daughter, Lily, peeked her head over. "Are you the one who walks every morning?" the girl asked. Ellie stood up, brushing her hands off. "I am." The girl smiled. "You wave at our window. I started doing stretches 'cause of you. My mom says I'm copying you." Ellie blinked. She hadn't even noticed the window. Later that day, as she peeled carrots for soup and hummed along to the radio, Ellie realized something profound. Wellness wasn't a checklist. It wasn't kale or yoga or green tea. It was a conversation, one she'd finally started having with herself after years of silence. And outside, the world kept spinning, quieter than before, maybe but fuller. Windows weren't just for watching anymore. Some were for being seen.